The first museums were basically private organizations, and they were funded by a particular family or an individual family, and reflected that family's interests. Later on, they evolved into public institutions, and their mandates for collecting and for displaying also expanded, and it reflected that public involvement. In Elgin County, the Elgin Historical Society was one of the first organizations to begin actually collecting items from Elgin County, and eventually this museum became the first official museum for Elgin. We opened up in 1956, and we had an official opening party in 1957. So this year we're actually celebrating 40 years of community service.
Probably any time that there's been conflict, there have been military museums of sorts set up by the groups that were involved in it. Canada follows the British tradition of strong regimental identities and regimental histories. Many of the Canadian Army units, Canadian Air Force units, have regimental and squadron histories dating back to the formation of the original regiment and squadron. In the case of our local regiment, it goes back to the 25th Regiment when it was formed shortly after the Fenian raids, made up of units that were formed to combat the Fenian raids in the 1860s.
Well, actually, I think we need museums for a number of reasons. One of them is to remind us of our past traditions. We also need them for educational purposes. We provide a lot of interesting programming for people in our community, and I think that they find it not only educational but also enjoyable as well. And so we serve an entertainment function as well. We are also involved in promoting our community not only to our residents but to tourists as well. And so we have people from all over the world coming to Elgin County as a result of their awareness of the museums that are here.
The role of museums historically has been to chronicle the past, which is something which our museum attempts to do, specifically relating to the military history of Elgin County and the residents of Elgin County, the role they played throughout Canada's military history in the First World War, the Second World War, the Boer War, Korea, and more recently peacekeeping missions. Other museums will deal specifically with other aspects, such as the Planner Museum, dealing with the local history of the settlement of the area.
Actually, we've been very lucky in obtaining historical items. Most of the things that we have been donated by members of our community. And we're very fortunate in this museum to have things that are actually made here in Elgin County, and that makes them very special when you have something unique to your region that you can show off to people and explain the industries that were involved in producing those items.
Most of the historical items that we have here were donated to the museum from veterans in the form of bits of uniform they brought home with them, bits of war booty, such as this Mauser pistol, a German pistol, which stored in the butt. The butt became the holster for it, so you could add a shoulder stock to the museum. To the weapon, not to the museum. But many of our weapons come to us from this sort of thing, things that were relieved from their enemies and brought home as souvenirs and are now resting with us at the museum. If you contact the museum, we take a list of what you have to offer. The item is then referred to our acquisitions committee, which reviews all of the items which are offered to the museum to determine whether it's required for the collection or is appropriate to our collection. We do have limited space, so we have to be rather selective in some occasions, there's only so many tin hats we have room for in the museum. Once the committee's made a decision, then the item is the benefactor is notified as to whether it's to be added to the collection or not, and we move on from there.
What a curator does, that depends, I think, on whether or not you're affiliated with a very large institution, like one of the national organizations, or whether you're affiliated with a smaller community museum. In a larger institution, of course, you're going to have more job stratification. And so a curator's role becomes very sharply defined. And basically that individual will be involved in researching the collection and helping out designing the exhibits, that type of thing. In the smaller community museums, where funding is somewhat more limited and staffing, of course, is a little bit more limited, you have a position where you are doing a little bit of everything. So you'll not only be doing research about the collections, you'll be doing administrative work as well, such as grant proposals, speaking to the politicians, going out to the schools, the whole gamut of work within the field. I think the museum field is actually a very interesting field. It's an exciting time to be involved in this profession. It can be a bit stressful at times because sometimes we're facing a lack of resources, whether it be financial or human resources. But at those times, there's also an opportunity for you to try out new ways of doing things. And that can be a very creative and very exciting opportunity at the time. A museum traditionally provides several of the following services. We're involved in the preservation of local heritage items. We exhibit those items. We provide educational programming for those items. That educational programming can be held both on-site and off-site through displays, demonstrations, workshops, seminars, that type of thing. We're also involved in research, not only in artifacts, but in family research as well. And we're also providing tourist information to traveling tourists that are coming through to our area. So we're doing a bit of promotion. I think there's a type of museum for every interest that's out there. I know I was in the United States not too long ago, and I passed a museum devoted entirely to tractor seats, which I thought was pretty interesting. This museum is in Algon County, provides a varied attraction. We have a home that was built, we think, about the 1840s, and it reflects the early home life at the time. We have an agricultural building, which I find fascinating, and it shows us the traditions that are associated with farm life. And we also have a bee house, which is a replica of a building built in the 1820s. Museums in general get their funding from a variety of places. They receive government funding, of course, which I think everyone is quite aware of. They do a large amount of fundraising on their own, and they also receive donations from individuals or organizations that are interested in supporting the museum and the type of work that it does.
Museums have changed in many ways through the years. Originally, many people had the idea of a museum as a mausoleum almost. It was a place where things were put and then left. Today's museums are much more interactive and working with the public coming in to help them interpret and understand the significance of the items in the museum. One of our standard phrases is, this is the best place to learn about military history is in a museum. We should never have to encounter the actual items that are stored in the museum again. If you want to see a weapon, the place to see it is here in a museum, not on a battlefield.
One of the things the Elgin County Pioneer Museum is involved in right now is the Internet. We are involved with the Provincial Computer Network called Trillium, and all the museums of Ontario are eventually going towards the Internet. Through the Internet, we'll be able to post museum activities and events, and in this way, broadcast the things that are going on in Elgin County to an even wider audience. As a secondary function of our being involved in the Internet, we're involved in CHIN, which is the Canadian Heritage Information Network. And eventually what will happen with that is that all of our information about our collections will be transferred to the computer and placed on the CHIN databases, so that if someone in British Columbia wanted information about one of our artifacts, they could punch into that database and pull out that information. And I think that's a truly wonderful thing to do, project to be involved in.
The museum is currently in the process of developing a website with the assistance of the Canadian Heritage Information Network. Ideally, by the time people see this, we should be up and running through the Heritage Information Network website. If it is not currently available, check again in a few days and it probably will be available. The information has all been submitted and they have to do the formatting. For a military museum, ideally the best future is that this would be where you'd have to come to learn about wars. That we don't have them anymore, and if you want to learn about them, you have to come to a museum. Realistically, I don't think that's going to be the case. But our role will continue to be more important to help people understand and interpret their past. Everything that happens in the future has a basis in the past, and one of the mottos you'll see when you enter our museum is that those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it.
There are studies that prove that since the beginning of time, about 2% of people have always made marks, made art, carved sculpture, did cave painting. This progressed and developed. There's always been this consistent 2% of people that have to work with their hands, have to work out problems, philosophical association sometimes just problem solving with visual art and visual art objects. So it serves a need. I guess on that basic level, it serves a need. As far as we bring it up to the present day, those needs don't really change in the sense that we need to have people experience a multiple level of intelligences. We've got a lot of stuff coming at us all the time, a lot of visual data all the time, and a lot of the rules, a lot of the basic technical skills that you learn are ones that have been developed over centuries, not have been developed today. The reason we enjoy certain colors, the reason we enjoy certain stimuli are the same as they've always been. So we just have to be able to decipher that language, demythologize that language. So there's a lot of material available in the visual art language, so we just want to be able to have that available at the fingertips of our community. Well, the first art galleries, this is an interesting thing we're dealing with even today, and that's a popularization of what has been considered a ownership of the elite. At one time, there were no museums, there were no art galleries. All the riches, if you will, and all the great art was held by the aristocracy. people didn't even get a chance to see it unless they had the maybe slight fortune of being able to work in the big house, so to speak. The 19th century, with wealth in the hands of many people brought about by the Industrial Revolution, made the whole concept of making museums and art galleries possible. And people like Dale Carnegie, for example, who funded all the libraries throughout southwestern Ontario, and others, took up this philanthropic spirit and began to purchase the art and museum artifacts and put it in buildings for the enjoyment and the ownership of the public. That evolution has been just constantly evolving ever since the 19th century. Of course, in Canada, we were busy just hewing the wood and drawing water, so the development of art galleries, for example, took place a lot later. Our development of art galleries in southwestern Ontario really took place in a big way over the last 30 years. And our gallery started about 27 years ago. Well, we're the first art gallery. I mean, really, I must describe it, that's a public art gallery. There have been private art galleries, and they come and go like a lot of businesses do, and there have been public salons and short-term exhibitions. But we are the first public art gallery in Elgin and St. Thomas.
The art gallery provides space for exhibitions for the community, and that the exhibitions are varied in that they run the range from professional artists, international, area artists, to as anyone that came into the gallery today would see, we have elementary school. This is actually the high school level art, and in 2 weeks we'll have elementary school art in here. We also display our permanent collection as space allows, of course. And we offer the front part of the gallery as a space for area artists to display their work. As far as tourists go, we have children coming in from the schools. We have clubs that come in, and we do offer a tour service to the community that way. We offer children's classes, both summer classes and classes on Saturday afternoons during the fall and the winter and the spring. We have life drawing classes for adults Thursday evenings here presently, and we have offered other workshops as the demand, as the public demands it, or as the artists demand it. As far as other services, we also offer space for meetings in our studio, and we have here in the main gallery also for meetings. So anyone that wants to meet in a cultural environment, we offer that too.
There's a pretty high percentage of local art shown in the gallery, probably about 80% of the stuff that's shown in the gallery. And that's difficult to define, really, because we're in the process of not only showing local talent, we're also trying to highlight local people and put them in the same framework as artists from outside the area as well. So although we show a lot of work from local artists, there are particular exhibitions that we like to put on the same parallel as artists, of national significance. So although even our collection has those kind of capabilities too, we have many works from artists that are produced in the local area, but we're here at the service of Elgin County, but the work is from all over, really. We do have a full range of programs. We just tend to, because of our educational system, we seem to have a sort of a pyramid, and at the pinnacle of it is work that is of national significance.
Yes, the gallery does support local artists in a big way. As I said before, we offer the space in the front of the gallery for area artists to display their work. And we also have, in the past, had juried exhibitions every other year, and Creative Elgin on the off year, so that in September every year, Elgin County artists are displayed here for sure. Yeah.
Well, we have a collection which is about 650 pieces, which are stored in our vault, so to speak, and most of the pieces have been donated, but we have had some acquisitions money in the past too, and that will have about 3 or 4 exhibitions a year in our exhibition space. Will be from the permanent collection. They'll be culled from the permanent collection, usually thematically based, or sometimes a survey of a particular artist or a group of artists, who are working in a particular idiom. Then we have a full range of exhibition programs, and that's through a variety of sources. Most of the exhibitions are produced by the Art Gallery St. Thomas Elgin. I'm the executive director, but I'm also the curator, so I'm the person that's in charge of selecting the exhibitions. And they can come from a variety of sources. Most of them I go out and I look for them. I just go out and look for them and spend a little bit of time doing that. Other exhibitions are available from the AGO, Artists with Their Works program sometimes, or they put together exhibitions. We are part of a network of galleries called OAG, the Ontario Association of Art Galleries. Each gallery is working on their own exhibitions, and sometimes they make them available for travel as well. And we'll pay a rental fee to bring those exhibitions in.
Funding for the gallery comes from government sources, the Ontario Arts Council, and the City of St. Thomas. We also receive funding through donations, through our membership, and through fundraising in a big way. The Board of Directors has an event coming up in June, actually, a silent auction, which we hope to earn a few dollars to help support the ongoing operations of the gallery.
We receive money from a variety of sources, and like every institution that's of service to the community, there are certain trends that might bring its value under scrutiny. And unfortunately, we're going through that time right now with scrutiny to healthcare, to education, to many things that make a community worth living in. We are more than 80% funded by private donations and memberships and everything. So we're a bit of a unique gallery in that sense, that we've never had a great level of support from either municipal government or the Ontario government at all. We're probably going to, if our survival depends on being able to get just a certain amount of funding from those groups, and we just keep fighting along and trying to keep getting some money from other sources. There's probably not a lot of new sources for money. Everyone's after it. The smaller the organization you are, the more vulnerable you are. We can't afford to go and hire a professional fundraising team like a hospital could, for example, which makes it all the more challenging for us to motivate our people and to get out there and try to raise money to sustain the gallery. Pros are the cons. Pros are it's challenging, and there's never any easy answers to any facet of the job. The challenges are money, resources, energy, and momentum. Momentum can disappear in a second. You get something going, it can die in a second. So I'd say the challenges are similar to the challenges that are facing everyone in coming up to the next millennium. And that's the fact that it's a rapidly changing economic, social, and cultural environment.